one of the most stunning moments of my childhood was when my father was reading the New York Times, and he saw this very large picture of a group of African hyenas sitting underneath a Joshua tree. And they were sitting under this tree, and the way that they were sitting was so perfect, it looked like they were sitting in a jury. They looked like they had been set up, posed. And the thing that was so stunning to me was that they all had these sort of like strange, emaciated dog bodies with this sort of mangy hair, you know, tufts of mangy hair. It looks like they had been fighting with each other, scabs. And they all had human heads and faces. And it stunned me because it wasn't a doctored picture in any way. It was just the way the shadows were casting on these strange animals' faces that was causing them to appear to have human heads. So that whole thing of an animal, a dog with a human head, really hit home with me. It was the moment that I knew I was an artist. That was it. And I was about 8 years old. Artwork, I think, always solves problems in my life. I find it to be very therapeutic. I generally don't like to call it therapeutic, but every time that I'm having problems, emotional, or when I'm stuck on something and I'm feeling annoyed or agitated in my life, I know that when I start doing some art, it takes only 5 or 10 minutes to just start doing something, whether it be just picking up my drawing pad and starting to draw some kind of an idea. I know that every time I do it, the problems that I have in my head disappear. And I feel great. I feel great in the process of making my work. The creative process can be painful at times. I think it can be painful in a lot of different ways. First of all, I found that art is a physical thing. You have to have physical strength and energy to do art. I'm now struggling with my health. I have cancer, and I'm finding that it's harder for me to do larger things. I mean, I've never done very big pieces of art, but the pieces that I've done are actually large for me now. And I'm now in the process of trying to find a smaller thing that I can work on, or a smaller scale, just so that I don't have to move my arms as much and move around as much. I think the pain might be trying to find a truth in myself. I'm trying to find the core of who I am as a person, and an accumulation of my own experiences in life. And I try to go at things, or I'm trying to express things psychologically and emotionally. So I think that more than pain, I think it's actually a great pleasure, because it's almost like a release of these ideas that are inside of me. I find art to be, making art, to always be a rewarding experience. I mean, even on a daily basis. For example, when I do a drawing, or when I make an etching, or when I start making a piece of art. Now I'm working on, I'm trying to do small things out of paper mache because I'm trying to pare down and get more simple. I find that when I make something and I wake up the next day and I look at it, it's like a gift that I've given myself, you know, and I can look at it and feel good about myself and then keep adding to it and thinking about it. And I'm finding too that being sick makes me question more my existence and what I'm here on the earth for. What is the reason that I'm here? In moments of absolute panic, I think, oh, I should, you know, be traveling around the world and saving people, or running here and there and getting as much life in as I possibly can. But I was having a cup of tea with a friend of mine the other day, and she said, well, no, I think your purpose here is to just continue doing your artwork, you know, and try to get as much to who you are as you can for your, you know, for this is what you're here for. This is your job on this earth. The name of this character is Loner, and he is supposed to embody the feeling of loneliness. And what I wanted to do was create these creatures that when people look at them, they could somehow bring some kind of emotional feeling. When I look at him, I have the feeling of loneliness, of someone who is lonely might crawl around, you know. And so he's a part of the inhabitants group. And then I have had made many other inhabitants, which I'll show you later. And they're all a part of one kind of society or group of creatures. And they're all supposed to bring up feelings or emotions. I'd like to start my artist statement with a quote from Desmond Morris, author of The Naked Ape. Human beings are animals. We are sometimes monsters, sometimes magnificent, but always animals. We may prefer to think of ourselves as fallen angels, but in reality, we are risen apes. I have always been fascinated by the anthropomorphic and human form. I've expanded on the human form by adding animal elements to make creatures that are otherworldly. The Inhabitants, my current project, is representative of groups of people in society. I collage physical, animal, and human traits to explore the psychological aspects of human eccentricities. For example, my figure of Piggly Wiggly represents addiction to sensuality. His humanoid hands shaped to climb a sausage, grabbing at the fat of the world and his own sexual organ. I've Raku-fired his head to show the archaism of his addiction. Shaped in a fetal position, Piggly never outgrows his desires. Miss Bipolar is another creature whose lower body diametrically opposes her upper, and whose face and back of head constantly pull at each other, like the screams in a Francis Bacon painting. I began working on the Inhabitants by thinking about human and animal personality traits. I used words like stubborn, determined, and ambiguous. The Inhabitants is a work in progress that I would eventually like to deconstruct. I want to isolate certain anatomical features. I'd like to do a piece on Loner's spinal cord, or the spiny comb-like object of Danny Dog's tail. By making the figurative less prominent, I feel I can better examine the internal worlds of these creatures.